Happy Sunday, everybody. I just have to laugh at my camera being turned around to begin with this live. Technology and me, I tell you what, the struggle is real. I'm so glad you guys decided to tune in and see me today. I just wanted to make an effort to come on and talk more live, more regularly. It's so important to just hear what you guys are thinking, reading your comments, and then figuring out what it is I can offer to help, because I know a lot of us are struggling out there with chronic symptoms. Sometimes we have spasmodic dysphonia like I used to have, or we have chronic pain in our bodies, or inflammation, or digestive problems, whatever. Anyway, all of it is so related to who we are as a whole person. So today I wanted to just talk a little bit about being a people pleaser. So anybody else resonate with that title? I know I like to think of myself now as a recovering people pleaser, because that people pleasing is a little bit of a slippery slope. It can be a little bit of a nefarious little creep into your habits that are not keeping you elevated and thriving on the highest level that you could be thriving on. I want to talk a little bit about why we become people pleasers to begin with. So this is a trauma response. Honestly, I know I grew up in a family that was a very loving family overall, but my dad was prone to being kind of volatile and easily upset. He wasn't good at regulating his own emotions. So therefore, the rest of us had to walk on eggshells and behave accordingly in order to not poke the bear, so to speak. So people pleasing was something my mother modeled for me. And then in addition, I learned that it was kind of important for me to, also follow suit if I wanted to kind of keep the peace around my household. I know a lot of us probably are facing similar childhoods in that regard, or we develop the people pleasing maybe later in life. However it is, it's usually born out of trauma or stress, and then it helps us cope in the moment. It helps us to survive our childhoods without, undue drama and angst and conflict. So it served its purpose at the time. But as we are starting to thrive and become new versions of ourselves that are not inhibited by physical symptoms of things holding us back, we want to learn how to modify maybe some of our past behaviors that we've been using to cope and survive, and now we got to turn it and learn how to thrive. Unfortunately, the people-pleasing aspect has a whole list of kind of traps that come along with it. First and foremost, it causes us to run our adrenaline because we are constantly gauging for the reaction of other people. Whenever we are going about our business in the world, we are constantly evaluating what we should do next, or how we feel about ourselves, or there's so many things that we use other people's filter to then decide how we feel about ourselves. People pleasing is this trap that we fall into if we're not getting the reaction that by stating what is our truth or what our needs are in the moment, then we oftentimes start deferring to other people. And it's so dangerous because our adrenaline is involved in this whole situation. We're in the fight or flight kind of mentality. We're not truly grounded and at center and peace with ourselves. We're kind of always off balance, waiting for someone else's reaction in order to feel good in our day, in order to feel like we're moving forward. But sadly, when we are doing someone else's bidding all the time by making them happy, then we fall into this trap where our own needs are going unmet. And it's very easy to become very depleted in that situation, and then also start making some choices that maybe aren't for our highest good. When we go with the flow, we go with the pack, we get peer pressured as kids into doing things that maybe we would never do on our own. Similarly, it doesn't really improve when we become adults, sadly. We also get peer pressured into, say, I know from my own journey, in the past, I was a former entertainer. I used to sing for my supper, so to speak. And then I had this major health crisis that came up, and I had to pivot and start doing some other things as I was healing myself. So I had to, when I was in my former career of doing, entertaining all the time, I would oftentimes want to be part of the crowd, and I was wanting to be well liked and accepted, and make sure everyone else is having a good time. And so I would drink and party with my my other people I was having doing gigs with or whatever, and I would oftentimes be the facilitator. I'd be the one bringing the booze because I wanted to be part of the group and accepted, and make sure that everybody else was getting their needs met. If they were wanting to have a good time, I'm here to facilitate, right? So that obviously led me into some bad habits on a daily basis, and unfortunately I fell into some a habit of drinking quite often. And unfortunately, that, along with a bunch of other choices, led me down to a chronic, like a breakdown in my whole body, and and a nervous breakdown too, to boot. So the habit of drinking every day was one example of how I used my people pleasing at that point in my life and I prioritized that versus listening to my own body, because I was hearing whispers in my ear from my intuition saying, this is not good for you, you need to quit it, and you need to start taking better care of yourself. I'm just telling you this because these are the traps that we can fall into. So when I started again healing myself using nutrition, then I had to learn how to prioritize my own needs and what it was that I wanted to do for myself before I caved into the whims of anyone else. I wound up losing a lot of friends. I wound up having to kind of really peel away my life in a way because I no longer could be a people pleaser. I just couldn't heal myself and also do all of that as well anymore. So I had to learn a way of being that was starting to listen to my own needs first and foremost. I want to encourage all of you to begin that process. First and foremost, just admitting that if you're a people pleaser, then, just admitting that to yourself, and then also recognizing that maybe that's not for your highest good. Because honestly, like I mentioned before, when we're doing the bidding for someone else, from someone else's agenda, someone else's happiness, that means that our own agenda, our own happiness in that moment is not getting any attention. Now, granted, obviously, at times we have to put other people first. We have to, if in dire situations, you have to go running and rescue and help as much as you can. But I'm talking about chronically every single day, how you prioritize your life and your choices. It matters because it's each individual choice every single day that adds up to be the whole compilation of who you become ultimately. We are a compilation of all of our choices over time. And so as we start correcting the course, if we were trying to get rid of some of our chronic symptoms and we just don't know where to begin, I think a great place to begin is simply just looking at yourself and saying, okay, are my people pleasing tendencies causing me to do some things that I know aren't great for me right now? Am I wasting time? If you wanted to build a business, am I doing a time suck on the phone with a friend who's, got this romantic relationship that, she wants to talk about 24/7? It's a time suck and you're not doing the things that you want to be focusing on. Or maybe you're trying to heal some symptoms in your body and you're trying to learn how to make some, different choices with your diet. And your friend wants to go to a restaurant that doesn't have a lot of healthy choices. And so you're going to have to learn boundaries is a form of self-love. And in order to become less of a pleaser and more of an asserter of your own needs, of course, we have to learn to start drawing those boundaries more clearly. Of course, this feels crazy uncomfortable when you're first starting to do it because it's making your primordial brain turn on. We have this basic part of our brains, which is basically to help us survive. So oftentimes we become victims of this brain telling us things that really aren't productive, aren't helpful, aren't even true sometimes. And it wants to keep us in that fight or flight kind of response. When we are chronic people pleasers, oftentimes we get this panic when we are doing something that we know is not pleasing someone else and kind of making them mad or upset with us in any way, shape, or form. We can have this major fear loop start, and we can start feeling like, oh my God, it's life or death, and I'm going to be on a primordial brain level cast out of the tribe. I will likely starve to death and perish because the tribe is no longer accepting me, even though the tribe isn't necessarily casting you out or saying anything negative. They're just not thrilled with you right now. It's not even as dire as they're all the way mad at you, but we fear that so much. We're just geared from the initial time when we started using people pleasing as our coping mechanism. So it's just important to notice these things when we're starting to assert ourselves a little more. You have to say, I know it feels so uncomfortable right now. I know that. When we start feeling uncomfortable, all we have to do is show ourselves more self-love and also break it down for ourselves. So in fact, what are we feeling? We're feeling the fear that other person is not giving us approval. So we are not letting the primordial brain go crazy and take control. We are instead beginning to have a look at what it is that is happening. So when you can identify, okay, I'm fearful if so-and-so is going to be upset with me. There comes my cat. Of course, on cue. The minute I always start talking on a video or on a live, she wants to come in and have her 2 cents in. So please forgive the meowing in the background. Hopefully, maybe you speak kitty and she's telling you some good stuff too. She's just got something to add to this. I don't know, but anyway, so what you can, start identifying your beliefs around this. So as pleasers, we think we have to do X, Y, or Z in order for people to like us, for them to accept us. And, sometimes we have to perhaps crack that belief and say, look, I need to assert my needs and also prioritize my own healing, my own health right now. And honestly, anyone who loves me and cares about me should be able to ultimately want that for me too. So as we're starting to have some unpleased people with us as we're going through this, because it's inevitable when you're used to being a pleaser and people are used to having you accept whatever it is that they want from you, then it's going to come as a shock to them when you start saying no to that. it's going to be a process. And like I said, I'm a recovering people pleaser. I won't say that I am great at it all the time, but I definitely have some boundaries drawn, and people who know me know they're not negotiable on certain things for me. So as you begin to unpack this and figure out that anyone who truly loves you and is worthwhile being in your life ultimately wants you to thrive. So even if they seem a little bit grouchy about it in the beginning, they're going to come around and they're going to want to support you and also help you be the best version of yourself. And if they don't, maybe they're not the right people you want to be surrounding yourself with all the time. That's something to consider. I would encourage you guys to just, start journaling on some of these subjects, because as we're starting to learn more about what we want and the life we're trying to create and the health we want to create, the financial situation, the relationships, whatever it is you're after, you got to know what you want first in order to create it. It doesn't just happen by accident. So as you start becoming more in the driver's seat and taking these things into consideration, you're going to learn that, little by little, you can negotiate things that are good for you and boundaries that are more clear for other people, so that you can start loving yourself to the point where you are able to make dramatic changes and transformations to the person and the circumstances that you desperately want. If you're trying to heal yourself from a chronic condition, I'm telling you, this is the number one place to start. Learning to love yourself and care for yourself, nurture yourself in a way that is pleasing to your agenda and what you need and what you want is the first step to making that transformation a reality. If you don't stand up for it, you don't become the guardian of that new protocol, nobody else is going to do that for you. And as a matter of fact, like I said before, you're going to feel some pushback at first from other people as you start making some new habits. Again, if we're stuck in the same old way of being, we're going to be stuck with the same old results. We have to learn to be a new version of ourselves to get the things and the healing and the vibrancy and the wealth that we want. That's all we want. And the universe is an abundant place that is conspiring for us. And all we have to do is learn to vibe with that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and hopefully I inspired you to start looking at how you're operating, because healing is a top-down kind of situation. I'm going to see if there's any questions here. Do you guys have any questions for me? Because I'm happy to answer any if you guys have anything you would like to know. I'm just happy that you decided to pipe in and tune in and join me on this beautiful Sunday. And I'm hopefully I'll be sharing some more of these type of little pop-up lives, and you guys can follow along and start implementing some of these things, because they really are life-changing. Anyway, I love you, and I hope I will see you again very soon. All right? You guys have a great rest of your Sunday. Bye.